will listen to a presentation of our postdoctoral student or doctoral student. Sorry, I have abrogated you, David Javorský, and I'm really interested what he's supposed to tell us because I can't guess it from the title. So let us listen to your talk on student interpreting. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So does it work? Okay. Okay. So first of all, talk about the outline out of this talk. So first, I motivate the recordings and also how we did the annotation. Then I'll talk about the statistics of this data set and some analysis, and also I present our steps towards the automatic alignment, and then I finalize the presentation by key findings. So we start with the motivation. I'll show you an example. So here we can see 2 rows. First is the speech or the transcript of the speech, and the second row is the transcript of the interpreting. So in the speech, there's the text snippet. To sú nástroje, architektúra, ktorá umožňuje počítačom chovať sa inteligentne, which is in English, these are tools, architecture, which allows computers to behave intelligently. So this is the machine translation of the speech. On the other hand, we have interpreting here, which says something like this. These are tools that help AI to do its task, but humans don't have it in their brain. And what I want to show you on this example is that there are some differences between the translation and the interpreting. So the first observation here is that the segmentation is different. By the segmentation, I mean the split to sentence boundaries. So the split to sentences, so the sentence boundaries are different. So for example, here we can see that there is one sentence, these are tools, there is the second sentence, which starts with architecture and so on. But in the interpreting, we have only one sentence. And furthermore, we have some part here, which is not even part of this sentence here. But it continues somewhere around there, but it's kind of like concatenation of 3 or more sentences. So this is the first difference, the segmentation that is different. The second difference, we can see also that it's not always the literal translation, right? Because, for example, here, this part, it looks like it's a translation, but after that, it's not really the translation. For example, architecture is omitted and so on. So what we would like to see probably is to have some kind of span annotation. And I'll show you some example what we can annotate. So here we can see the spans what we in our corpus annotated. The example is here, the translation, which is the first part, is here. So these are tools. Then the architecture, which is not present in the interpreting, so it's marked as omission. There is some paraphrase of, so that help is the paraphrase of which allows. There's some replacement, generalization, and so on. I will talk about this more later, what these labels mean and how we created them. But this is something what we were asking when we were given the interpretation. So what different phenomena we can analyze in the interpreting. So let's say that we have this data set. We have the data set where we have such alignment. So what it could be good for? So first, just having the data set, we can use it for some linguistic analysis. But when we have the data set, we can go further and we can create some automatic tools. We can create automatic tools which can automatically align and do the alignment for us. And these can be useful for example, for educational purposes, so to automatically monitor and analyze student interpreters. We can also evaluate the automatic simultaneous speech translation systems, automatic simultaneous interpretation systems. We can also have analysis of the ASR and empty errors, which includes detection of hallucinations, for example. And this is especially useful for evaluating the machine translation outputs of large language models, because it has been shown that they are less literal than compared to the literal translations of neural machine translation models. And lastly, this can serve as an inspiration for developing simultaneous speech translation systems, because what actually interpreters do, they try to convey the information from one language to another language. And this is the same for simultaneous speech translation, but the key difference is that interpreters, they not only translate, but they also try to adjust to the audience. They try to simplify and make the audience understand as much as possible. So this is the motivation, and this is what motivated us to create such data set. So now I'm going to present to you the data set, how we created it, and some statistics. So the data set, it was created from student mock conferences. So this is the reason why it's called mockconf. These student mock conferences, they took part as an interpreting curriculum at the Faculty of Arts at the Charles University. And each mock conference, it had 4 to 6 talks and some discussions. During the conference, students were representing some celebrity or some known person, and the person who was giving the talk, they prepared some speech. And other master level students of this curriculum, they listened to the speech and also were interpreting the speech. The topic and the short description of the speech, it was provided to the interpreters, and the languages which were covered during these conferences were Czech, English, French, German, and Spanish. A key feature of these mock conferences is it was done at the Faculty of Arts for Czech speaking students. All interpretations are from or into Czech. And this brings a very interesting feature of these mock conferences, and this is that it also contains relay interpretations. And relay interpretation is, or relay interpreting is when one speech is when the interpreting is already interpreted. So, for example, if we have a speech in English, it's interpreted to Czech, and then this interpretation in Czech is further interpreted to some other language, for example, German or Spanish. So here I provide some overview of topics which are covered in the dataset. I'm not going to read all of them, but what I want to just show is that there's really a variety of different domains. For example, like prevention of traumatic birth experiences, the brain is not a computer, or some history, probably manuscript, or some computer science, the utilization of AI in the military field, and so on. So having the mock conferences, which were recorded because it was done online via Zoom. So the first thing what we did was we split it to single recordings, to single talks, and then we automatically transcribe it using Whisper and manually revise the transcripts. We also asked the annotators who were revising the transcripts to label spans which contained proper names, because we wanted to anonymize everything, so the students, well, the names of students are not known in the dataset. And we also explicitly ask to capture exactly what was said. So it means that the data set or the transcripts can contain errors, like as we talk in speech with errors. And it includes pauses, hesitations, false starts, or some unclear parts. Here there is some example of such labels or the annotation in transcripts. So first is the anonymization. So all proper names are labeled that they are proper names. So it can be also this data set useful for, well, not all names which are marked are names of students. So it means that some of them we can leave there, and it can be used for some other purposes like name entity recognition or something similar to that. Then we have also hesitations, which are marked by @ symbol, just something like in speech. Then our false starts marked by hyphen at the end of the word, and then we have also pauses which are marked by 3 dots. And so here at this point we have the data set, we have transcripts, and we have some annotation of transcripts at the level of what happened in the speech. So even if we stop here, I think that there is a lot of information for the linguistic analysis, how we talk, and how, not we, but like the interpreters. So it might be really interesting for future research as well. So we are moving to the second part of the dataset description, and it's the alignment annotation. And for these purposes, we implemented our own alignment tool. We call it interalign, and the key characteristics of this tool or features are those. So first is that it supports long transcripts. It also supports word and span level alignment, and also it supports, or it's implemented in modern web-based interface. And so the question is why we implemented our own alignment tool, since probably there are many other alignment tools for such purposes. The reason is that the existing alignment tools, they were primarily designed for machine translation purposes. And as I mentioned in the beginning where I showed the example, there are many differences between textual translation and interpretation. So, for example, the segmentation is different. And this is the problem because these tools are supposed that they will be used in scenarios where the sentences are not too long, and it's not the case for interpretation. They really can be really long chunks we need to align, and it's not adjusted in these tools. The second thing also, as I said, the tools were designed for machine translation, so they primarily support word alignment, not span alignment. So this is another feature. And lastly, mostly of those tools, as far as I know, they are quite old, so probably they are operating system dependent, and it can be run anywhere, which in this case, our tool can be run in any web browser. So another remark here is that during the annotation, we proceeded in the way that I first, like with the feedback, so it means that first I sent some few sentences to annotators and ask them to first annotate them and send them to me, so that I can look at this and verify whether they really follow the guidelines. The goal was that we would like to have as high inter-annotator agreement as possible. So this was, and also this approach with iterative improvement was done in previous research. And here is the example, the link to this annotation tool. I can show you some examples after the talk if there is some time left. Now we are moving to the guidelines, to the annotation guidelines. We provided to annotators. So the first part is the segmentation, and it includes, we ask the annotators to search for spans that match according to some criteria. I will talk about the criteria, but here I would like to mention two aspects of this. The first one is that we wanted to have the annotation with maximal spans, maximal span lengths, and this means that there shouldn't be two alignment links with the same label. Otherwise, we can merge them. So this is the first condition, and the second condition is that there shouldn't be overlaps. So it means that every word should belong to just one span. Talking about the labels and alignment link types, we decided to have those, which are described now. So the first one is the translation, is the most simplest one. It's just translation that holds regardless any additional context. Then we have second group is reformulation, and here we have several sub categories. The first one is the paraphrase. So it means that the meaning is equivalent in the given context, but it's not a direct translation. The second is summarization, which is the equivalent meaning, but it's shortened, it's expressed in fewer words. And the last one is a generalization, which is the meaning is as close as possible, but the interpreting part is less specific. And this is the example. Is for example, the cats and dogs are generalized to pets. And you might be asking why we decided to use exactly these labels. The reason for that is that this is exactly what interpreters do during interpreting, or they are trained to do during interpreting, as far as I know. And these are techniques which they can use when, for example, they need to recover from cognitive load. For example, they just summarize something, or if they can't recall the word in the language, so they generalize to something different, and so this was inspired by the way how interpreters interpret. And of course, in interpreting, there can be there can be some errors. For example, some additions or omissions. We have two subcategories. The first one is the extra information. So there is some new information added. So it means that the meaning is changed. And the second is that it's pragmatically uninformative, and means that basically it doesn't change any meaning. And here, what I would like to note is that I just talk about addition, but basically it also covers omissions as well. It depends on from what side we look at it. So if you look at the interpreting and something is added there, it means that it's omitted from the source. So I just use the term addition, but it's also omissions as well. And the last label is replacement, which is like some error where there is like, for example, in English, 17 versus 70, which can be easily misheard and misinterpreted. And the last part is word alignment, which is also present as an annotation in our dataset. Basically, it's a standard definition of a word alignment which is used in machine translation. There are two types, sure links and possible links. Sure links are where we have one-to-one word correspondence, and the possible links are something like contextual information needed, or linguistic elements such as the terminus or cases, etc. It's not so important in the context of this talk, this word alignment, but I wanted to put it here for the sake of completeness. And we are getting to some statistics of the dataset. So these are main statistics of the dataset we collected. We split the dataset to two sets, the development set and the test set. And the development set, it contains 2 hours of total duration of recordings, of talks, and the test set contains 5 hours. Also, what's important to mention here is that since the dataset was collected during some student teaching, we needed to collect consents from students to publish their interpretation. And the students, they gave us consent at 2 levels. One level is they agreed to publish their transcripts, and the second level is they agreed to publish their transcripts and also voice, so recording. And here, for example, in this count column, the first column says how many recordings we have with only transcripts, and the second how many talks we have with recordings as well. So some parts of the data set we have only transcripts, some of them we have also recordings. And it also means that since we collected the consents, that sometimes it happened that we just have consent to publish for one side. So for example, we have speech, we do not have consent to publish, but we have consent for publish the interpreting of this speech. Of course, we need to have a pair of both to publish, but it's not so bad because we can reserve these pairs. We have only one consent for future work because we can, for example, construct some training data where we use only the part where we have the consent and somehow synthetically create the second part. Now I'm getting to the first analysis, and that's the inter-annotator agreement. In our dataset, we have 5 annotators, and 2 of them were for English because the English is mostly covered in the dataset, and 3 annotators for rest, 1 annotator per language. And we annotated 1 recording twice, since like this is the recording between Czech and English. And we calculated the agreement in the Cohen-Kappa evaluation. We did 2 of those. The first is segmentation, so how well the segment boundaries match between those annotators. And also we did the token level label agreement, so it means that we assign to each word the label from the span it belongs to. And then we also looked at probably the most intuitive evaluation, and that's the alignment link match. And that means that we compared the annotations and we counted the proportion of exact matches, so where the alignment really matches, like for example the translation with boundaries and with labels as well. And also we had less strict evaluation, which we only compared the links where they match, but the label doesn't have to match. And here are the results. So we can see that for segmentation, we have around 0.6 the Cohen-Kappa, which reports moderate agreement between annotators. For the label prediction, we have 0.4 and 0.25 for the source, for the speech, and for the interpreting, which is moderate and fair agreement. And then the interesting evaluation is the exact match, and here it depends which annotator we take as the reference, because the number of links differs. So for example, looking at this pair, when the annotator 2 is as the reference, we can see that that we have 30% of all alignment links which match between them if if we ignore the labels of the links, and 20% of links match if we really take also with labels. So we can see that probably it's not a great number or high number where 20% of links matches. But actually, when we looked at the data, we found interesting properties. So first, here analysis is to answer the question why it's so low. The agreement is to look at the span length, the length of spans per annotator. So here in this plot, we can see that we have the annotators on the x-axis, and we have span lengths on the y-axis. And we report the average span length per label. There is a translation, replacement, addition, generalization, paraphrase, and summarization. And what we can see here, that each annotator, they prefer, or it looks like they generally prefer different average span length. So we can see that, for example, the annotator 3, they are a very average span length for every label type is roughly around, I don't know, 5 or 4. But if we compare it to annotator 4, it's really much higher. And so this is interesting because, like, if we created some guidelines, and we would say that if the annotators follow the guidelines, this shouldn't happen, right? Because it should be consistent. But then we look at the data, and I show you one example. So here we have the example. So this is first annotation is the annotation from one annotator, and we have this speech, so or the sentence in speech. So this is dobrý den a nesmírně vám děkuji za pozvání i za váš úvod, which is translated, hello and thank you very much for the invitation and for your introduction. And in the interpreting we have hello and thank you for having me. So we can see here that it's a bit different to the translation. So first, so this annotator decided to annotate this part as it's omitted because it's not present here, and the rest, this part was annotated as a paraphrase. And here we have the second annotation, which looks like this. So the second annotator, they decided to really be really thorough, and they annotated as this part, hello and is the translation. Then they see that nesmírně is not present here, so in the interpreting, so it's actually omission. Thank you for is here, so it's translation, and only this part is paraphrase in this context, and this is the same as here. And so the question is one of those wrong? Well, I think that it isn't. I think it's not wrong, because it's just how we understand the language. It's how each of these annotators approach the task. And I think that this is the reason why we got 20% or 30% of agreement, because it's a really difficult task for humans. It's difficult to really decide where the labels are, where the segmentation is, the label them. There is many ambiguous scenarios, like for example, as we saw, the paraphrase versus translation, and also paraphrase versus generalization, and so on. There is many decisions during the annotation process we have to make to do the alignment. And even though we try to do this iterative feedback that I try to look at the annotations and improve the way how the annotators do this, it seems that it's probably not enough to have a higher agreement. So this is the first part of my talk, where I talk about the dataset creation and first analysis of the annotator agreement. And now I'm going to talk about the dataset itself. And I have just few interesting findings. The first one is that we looked at the coverage. So the question was, we have the interpreting and the source speech, and we want to know what is the percentage of the whole talk where the translation is, or where the paraphrase is, and so on. So here are the results on average. So we can see that for the translation we have roughly 50%. So the half of it's counted on words. So half of words are marked as translation. Paraphrase is in 20% of cases. There are some factual omissions, which is around 13%. There are some errors, replacements, which is 4%. But then there is one interesting observation, and that there are some factual additions. So we have some additions in the interpreting, which are like they're adding some extra information to the interpreting, which is kind of interesting. And when I look at this, I found two possible reasons for that. The first reason is that is the misunderstanding, and then the self-correction. So the interpreter misinterpreting, or they just make a mistake, but they didn't realize it, so they just they self-correct themselves. But actually, what was said is said; it cannot be undone. So this is the one possible source of these factual additions. And the second is mentioning other information, and that's the case when sometimes the interpreters, for making the interpreting more understandable, they mention something that was said earlier, but in the annotation it's very hard to search for this link for this when it was mentioned, but this is the reason why it can be marked as factual addition in this local context. But actually, I would say that this is something like advantages of interpreting, that because they really try to make the audience understand the speech, and if they think that it's important to repeat something, probably it's better for the audience to make it more clear. The second analysis is very simple view at the span length distribution. And what we can see here is, so the x-axis are the spans, are labels of spans, and this is the average span length for the source and interpreting. And what we can see is that it looks like it's kind of uniform, this distribution, except the addition, the pragmatically uninformative addition here. And the reason for that, it might be that it just these uninformative additions are just some filler words or incomplete words, or very simple words like very or much. And the summarization is also a bit different, but basically we can see that it's way longer in the source and shorter in the interpreting, which makes sense. We can also confirm this here on the second plot, where we have again the x-axis is the translation, are the labels, and the y-axis is the ratio between target and source spans in each alignment link. And we can see here that the translation and paraphrase is around 1, which is expected, and also generalization and summarization is way lower. So, for example, for summarization we have a 0.6. So on average, the summarization shortens like 60% of the speech. And the last interesting analysis from the dataset is the comparison of the direct and relay interpreting. And we analyzed this for 12 relay interpretations compared to 27 direct interpretations. And what we looked at was the target to source length ratio. And the reason for that was that we know that interpreters, they naturally shorten, they naturally compress the speech. So if we compare the number of characters or the number of words in interpreting and in the speech, we simply have for the interpreting like less words. And in the data set, it happens that this shortening is 77.5%. So on average, like 22.5% is shortened. And the question here is that if we have relay interpretation and when we have another interpreting in after the interpretation, whether they also can shorten it more, and if we have another one, we can shorten more and more. But actually, we observe that is not the case, that really for the second interpretation, there is not much shortening happening. It's just around 97%, which is almost 100. Which is interesting, but also I think it confirms or it indicates that interpreters simplify the speech. So the second interpretation is way easier to interpret than the original speech. Now we are getting to the last part of this talk, and is the steps we took towards the automatic alignment. And our approach contained 3 steps. So first, what we do in the automatic alignment, we do sentence alignment, but it's not a typical sentence alignment which is used in machine translation, because, as I said, it's different, because in machine translation we suppose that there is one-to-one sentence correspondence. But here we cannot suppose that. But what we can do is that we can split the long interpreting, the long sequences to some chunks with high precision. So the output from this first step is basically searching for splits in the source speech and the interpreting, where the interpreter and the speaker somehow synchronize. So we, for example, several sentences, there is some pause, and we search for that pause, and we research for a really high precision in segmentation. The reason is that we can then proceed to sub-segment. So when we have these chunks, which is the outcome from the first step, we can then use some tools which are more suitable for working with shorter spans. And for this we used Simultaneous, which is a tool for automatic word alignment. And we did this sub-segmentation such that we split where the punctuation matches. So any type of punctuation, for example, like the comma and full stop, if there is some match, we just split it and we consider that there is an alignment. And it's worth noting here that this is very an approximation, this is way beyond the optimal solution because, well, as I said, there is, or as we saw in this first example, the splits are not only the punctuation, they are also elsewhere, but this was something we tried as the first approach, and we are now working on some improvements of this. And the last step is when we have the segmentation, we can label the alignment links, and we just use it. We just did it using some simpler, fully connected neural network, where the features were constant similarity of embeddings of spans and the source and interpreting length. And for the baseline, we used some form of random baseline, and it was that we randomly selected the segmentation boundaries, where the number of segmentation boundaries was the same as in the reference, and also we selected random alignment links, but we iterated from the left to right, so for example, it can happen that some span from the beginning of speech is aligned to the end of the speech is kind of keeping in somehow like consistent in the moving window. And here there are results. So the output from the first alignment, the first step is marked as BA. The output from the second step is BA plus sub, and the output from the first from the third one is BA plus sub plus lab. And here we what I want to show you here is the evaluation on one recording, where we have the two annotations. I also have the evaluation for the development and tested, but I just present here this one because I think it's sufficient to show. Also, what we have is the baseline, the output from these three steps, and this is the annotators. We have this table consists of pairs of lines, of rows, and the first row, so this is the one cell, the second cell, and so on. And the first part of this cell is the comparison of the system to the annotator 2, and the second is to annotator 3. And here there are the annotators compared against each other, and to 3 to 2 and 2 to 3. And the first result I would like to talk about is this the evaluation for segmentation for the output from the first step, which is BA. It's here, and we can see that really we focused on having high precision here, which is also the case. So so this is good. Then second result is that when we look at the evaluation of F1 score for the segmentation, we can see that the output from the last step here, when you compare it to annotator 2, is a bit higher than annotator 3. So for this annotator, we according to this score, we perform better. But for the second annotator, for the third annotator, it's lower. So this number is lower than this one. And then for the probably the most interesting evaluation here is the exact match. As I said, that there are 30 or 20% of links that really match between annotators. It's here. And if we look at our performance, so for example here, when we compare this line to this line, so we are comparing 18 to 30 or 15 to 19. So we are still beyond the annotations for the annotator 3 as the reference. It's here 24. We have 11. this is even worse. So there is still a lot of improvement we can do here. But as I said, the second step is really not optimal. So there is a lot of room for the improvement. And for the label match evaluation, again we here surpass the annotator 2. But what I would like to mention here is that, as I said, probably this is why we are better than annotator 2, but not than the annotator 3, is the reason that probably the system is more similar to the annotations which are here in this from this annotator. So to summarize the work and the talk, so we developed a data set of student interpretation. This data set is around Czech, so every interpretation is from or to Czech, and it also covers English, French, German, and Spanish. We did the annotation at the level of words and spans. We focus on the phenomena present in interpreting. The dataset contains also real interpretations, and we provided some linguistic analyses, and we presented some approaches to towards the automatic alignment. So in the future work, we submitted this work to the December ARR. We aim to publish it at ACL this year. And the automatic alignment is in the process of improvement. As I said, there are some suboptimal steps we took, and what we would like to do is to view the problem as an optimization problem, something like searching for the shortest path in an alignment graph. And also, as I mentioned, we have some recordings where we don't have the consent, and for those they can be useful in the future for creating synthetic data. So this is the end of this talk. Thank you very much for your attention, and also I would like to thank Professor Ivana Chinkova and Katarzyna Eschnerova from the Faculty of Arts for the assistance and help with this study. I would like to thank to all students, interpreters who were willing to give their consents to make this study happen. And also I would like to thank Jirka Mayer for his help with consulting the implementation of the alignment tool. So thank you very much for your attention, and if there are some questions, I'm ready to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. And now the floor is open for discussion, for questions.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the span level annotations, because I remember when you asked me about the annotation tool, I mentioned that to my supervisor briefly, and I told him that you are making this span alignment tool. And I told him that you are making it because there isn't such a thing currently. And I don't know if I remember it correctly, but he told me something along the lines of, well, it's hard to do because it's not well defined what a span is. So have you come to some conclusions about what a span is, or is it just difficult to define it? Or what are your thoughts on it? Like, can you elaborate a little? Thank you.
Well, I think that we were considering different definition of spans. It can be defined if it's grounded in syntax, for example. But since we work with speech, it's a bit different than working with. Do I need the mic or? Oh, no. Oh, okay. So it's different. So annotating speech, like the transcript of speech, is different than annotating textual. So for that reason, since it's different, we wanted to be less limited to some really strict definitions, because we wanted to really capture these different phenomena in speech, and for that, I think there is very hard to have some really specific definitions.
And did the annotators? So it wasn't part of the guidelines. Like it wasn't part of the guideline that the specification of span length was not part of the guidelines in any way.
Well, it was in the way that it should be maximal.
Okay.
So
even though you did define it somehow, it still differed. So this was my other question. Like,
so basically, it shouldn't happen that there are two element links. For example, if I go to this example here, or for example this one, and for example, one annotator, they would decide that here is split and here is split, and there will be two paraphrases next to each other. We don't allow this, so it should be maximal. So this was the condition for span length.
okay, that makes sense. Okay. So given your new experience with the way annotators chose the span length, would you modify the annotator guidelines in the future somehow?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. Well, I think it depends on the task. I think that, yeah. So I think that, yeah, but it depends on the task. If, yeah, is it sufficient answer? Okay. Yeah. Well, in this case, it was mostly for analyzing the shortening, because we know that interpreters do shortening, so it was the main goal. But also, well, as I said, we labeled different phenomena in the dataset, so it was then also adjusted to, that we knew that we want some annotation we are interested in, but since we spent a lot of efforts to do the annotation, we wanted to exploit as much as we could, so we also did more annotation as well, and this is the reason why we have also like some generalization and so on.
Yeah, thank you for a nice talk. So I attended the mock conferences around 5 years ago, and there was also Russian. So did they discontinue with Russian faculty of arts?
Yes, there was some. I think that the problem with Russian was that we didn't get the consent from the students, but the Russian was there as well. So it can be, for example, useful for the synthetic data set.
Yeah. And can you summarize reasons why do you focus on the mock conferences and not on some other source of interpreting, like from TV?
Mm-hmm. So the reason was that this data set, well, because we knew that something like this is happening, and that there was some cooperation with the Professor Chenikova, and this data, if we don't use these, I think that they will be never used. So it's a great source of the data, and also another advantage of this is that there are students, so probably there are not many data sets with student interpreting.
Okay.
Thanks for a nice and clear presentation of your work. Of course, I know all the technical details, so my question is different. Actually, I realized too late that we should have invited the people from the Faculty of Arts to this meeting. So I hope that the recording will be available, and then you can also forward that to them. So my question was whether you are in touch, or when will you get in touch again with Professor Chenkova and her colleagues and students, because they can easily provide further insights, and this especially aligned data set will be a nice study material for them. So like, what are your plans in this regard?
Yes, I would like to contact them, and because I remember that Professor Shinkova, she was asking for the follow-up that we should. So I think that this is really right time now when we submitted the paper, and we are waiting for the decision of acceptance. So I think that, well, sometime around now, I think that I would like to contact them.
Thank you.
Well, I have one question concerning the annotators or the choice of annotators. We have a project in discourse analysis, and we want to derive some conclusions from the disagreement of the annotators. And then it's very important to have annotators of the same kind, or somehow, so that if the annotators differ, then their conclusions may differ. We want to have some nice measure of disagreement between people who have the same background or a similar background. So how have you chosen the annotators from this point of view?
So they were chose based on, I think that they should have background in translation. So they were either translators or interpreters, but I think that mostly translators, I would say. Yeah.
So you run Whisper transcription, and then you posted it, the transcripts?
Yeah.
Okay.
The audience? No. So again, thank you very much for your presentation. We are looking forward to the future development of the project, and wish you good luck.
Thank you much.
And thank you for coming. And next Monday, we will have a talk given by a member of the Faculty of Arts, and he will say something on on his work, or the work on large language models. So we will be in a similar area, not exactly the same, but in a similar one. So thank you again for coming. See you next time.
Thank you.